Whatever she needs. Full clearance. His security chief looked like he wanted to argue, then just nodded. I'll have everything sent to your secure server within the hour. Good. Daniel pulled out his phone. I'm calling a press conference. Public statement about the tragedy, appeal for information. The usual grieving businessman routine. His voice dripped with disdain. Paolo will eat it up. Maya watched him transform, shoulders slumping slightly, face arranging itself into something approximating devastation. The shift was subtle but complete, the wolf becoming the wounded prey. You're good at this, she observed. I've been wearing masks my whole life. Daniel's eyes met hers, and for a moment the facade cracked. The question is which face is real anymore? Before Maya could respond, Minho's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. Sir, we have a problem. Your apartment in Koreatown, the one Maya was using, just exploded. Gas leak, they're saying, but nothing. Maya's voice was flat. They tried to kill me, assumed I'd go back there. Daniel's hand found her arm gripped tight. You're staying with me, no arguments. I wasn't planning on making any. Maya looked at the smoldering restaurant, the spray-painted threats, the bodies being loaded into ambulances. This is past the point of running. They returned to the Mercedes, Minho trailing behind to coordinate with authorities. The drive back was silent, thick with unspoken understanding. Paolo had declared total war. There would be no negotiation, no peaceful resolution, only victory or death. Maya's apartment, her carefully constructed sanctuary of anonymity, was a crater when they drove past. Fire trucks still worked the scene, neighbors clustered on sidewalks, filming on phones, hungry for tragedy to feed their social media appetites. She felt nothing looking at it, just the cold assessment of tactical loss. I'm sorry, Daniel said quietly. Don't be. I've lost more. Maya turned away from the window. How many properties do you own in the city? Dozens. Why? Because we need somewhere Paolo doesn't know about. Somewhere off the books. No paper trail, no digital footprint. She met his eyes. Somewhere he can't burn while we sleep. Daniel's jaw tightened. Then he made a call. Spoke rapid Korean. Ended it. I have a place. Malibu Cliffs. Purchased through shell corporations. Never stayed there myself. Minho doesn't even know about it. Perfect. They changed direction, heading west toward the coast. The city gave way to highway, then winding roads that climbed into hills overlooking the Pacific. Daniel drove with one hand, the other resting near the gear shift, close enough that Maya could feel the heat of his skin without actually touching. The safe house was a modernist box of glass and concrete cantilevered over cliffs that dropped into churning water below. Isolated, defensible, beautiful in the way dangerous things often were. Daniel killed the engine. They sat in silence, listening to waves crash against rock. We're alone now, Maya said. Not a question. Yes, good. She opened her door, stepped out into wind that tasted like salt and violence. Because we need to talk about what happens next, and I need you to be honest about whether you're ready for it. Daniel followed her inside. The house was sparse, expensive minimalism, everything sharp angles and cold surfaces. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the ocean like a painting of oblivion. Maya moved through the space, checking sightlines, exit points, defensive positions, old habits. Daniel watched her with dark intensity, reading her body language the way she read terrain. You think power makes you safe? She said, not looking at him. It does. No. Maya turned to face him. It makes you a bigger target. Every empire you build, every enemy you crush, it just adds weight to the crown. And crowns are heavy, Daniel. Heavy enough to break necks. Is that what happened to you? The weight broke you? Maya's laugh was bitter. I was never broken. I was sharpened, honed, turned into something so efficient at killing that my own people were afraid to decommission me. She crossed her arms. You want to know who I am? Fine. Black Ops, classified programs that officially don't exist. I've destabilized governments, eliminated targets in 17 countries, run operations that would make Paulo Hermano look like a street thug. Daniel's expression didn't change. And then I got tired of being a weapon, tired of watching good people die for bad reasons, so I disappeared. Buried myself so deep that even my handlers couldn't find me. She met his gaze until you pulled me back into the light. I didn't pull. You chose to step into it. Maybe. Maya moved to the window, watched darkness swallow the horizon. Or maybe I was just tired of being invisible, of pretending I'm something I'm not. Daniel came up behind her close enough that she could feel him in the space between heartbeats. What are you, Maya? The same thing you are, a monster trying to remember what it feels like to be human. His hand found her shoulder, turned her gently. Their eyes met, and Maya saw her own exhaustion reflected back. The bone-deep weariness of people who'd survived too long on rage and necessity. Then let's be human together, Daniel said quietly. Just for tonight. Before the war starts again, Maya wanted to say yes, wanted to lean into the warmth of another person, to remember what connection felt like beyond synchronized violence. But every instinct screamed warnings about vulnerability, about the cost of caring when death was always one bullet away. I don't know how, she whispered. Neither do I. Daniel's thumb traced her jaw with unbearable gentleness. But I'm willing to try if you are. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Storm coming. Maya could see it building over the ocean, dark clouds pregnant with lightning, moving toward shore with inevitable purpose. They'll come for us, she said. Let them. People will die. They already are. Maya closed her eyes, felt his warmth bleeding through the small space separating them. It would be so easy to close that gap to take what he was offering. Partnership, protection, maybe even something resembling peace. But peace was a lie. She'd learned that in blood and fire and the screams of people who believed they were safe right up until the moment they weren't. You should have let them finish it, she said, opening her eyes. That night at the restaurant should have let me disappear. Now you're marked by association. Daniel's hand moved from her jaw to cup her face, holding her gaze with fierce certainty. I don't let anyone decide when my story ends. Not Paulo Hermano, not fate, not you, his voice dropped. And I sure as hell wasn't going to watch you walk away without fighting for the chance to know you. Really know you beyond the violence and survival. Maya's breath caught. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. The words hung between them. Challenge and invitation and confession all at once. Outside, the storm broke. Rain hammered against glass like bullets. Lightning split the sky, illuminating their faces in stark white clarity. Maya made her choice. She kissed him, not gentle or tentative, but fierce. All the fear and loneliness and desperate need for connection poured into the pressure of lips against lips. Daniel responded immediately, pulling her close, one hand tangling in her hair while the other pressed against the small of her back. They moved together like they fought, synchronized, intense, each giving and taking in equal measure. Maya's hands found his shirt, fisted in expensive fabric, pulling him closer still. Daniel groaned against her mouth, the sound vibrating through her chest. Then Maya pulled back, breathing hard, reality crashing down like the rain outside. "This is a mistake," she gasped. "Probably." Daniel's forehead rested against hers, both of them trembling. "But I'm done playing it safe, done pretending. I don't want this. Want you. We're being hunted. I know. They'll use this against us. Use me to hurt you. Let them try." His grip tightened. "I've spent 20 years being untouchable, alone, building walls so high nobody could reach me. And you walked through them like they were paper, like you belonged there all along." Maya's throat tightened. "I don't belong anywhere. You belong here with me, fighting beside me." Daniel pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Tell me you don't feel it. This thing between us. Tell me I'm imagining the way we fit together." She couldn't because he was right. From that first moment in the restaurant, fighting side by side, moving like they'd trained together for years, something had clicked into place. Recognition deeper than attraction. Understanding beyond words. "I feel it," Maya admitted quietly. "And it terrifies me." "Good." Daniel smiled. "Small, genuine, devastating. Terror means you're alive. means you still care enough to be afraid of loss. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, they stood in the eye of it. Two people learning to be human again, knowing tomorrow would bring blood and fire, but choosing this moment anyway. Maya pressed her palm against his chest, felt his heartbeat hammering beneath skin and bone, steady, strong, real. "If we do this," she said, "if we cross this line, there's no going back. Paulo will see it as weakness. We'll use it to destroy us both. Then we'll destroy him first." Daniel covered her hand with his together. The words settled between them like a vow. Maya stepped back, breaking contact, needing space to think. But Daniel's phone buzzed before either could speak. He pulled it out, read the screen, and his expression turned to stone. "Min-ho just sent footage from your apartment explosion." He turned the phone toward her, security camera stills, grainy, but clear enough. 3 men, Los Hermanos tattoos visible on their necks, planting devices with professional efficiency, and in the final image, one of them looking directly at the camera, smiling, holding up a photo. A photo of Maya and Daniel leaving the restaurant together. They know. Maya breathed. They know. Daniel pocketed the phone, which means the hunt just got personal for both of us. Maya moved back to the window, watched lightning crack the sky. Her reflection stared back. Hard eyes, tight mouth, the face of someone preparing for war. Behind her, Daniel's reflection joined hers, 2 silhouettes against the storm. "What now?" he asked. Maya smiled, cold, sharp, the expression of a weapon, remembering its purpose. "Now we stop running. Stop hiding." She turned to face him. "Now we hunt them back." Daniel's eyes gleamed with approval. Together. Together. They stood in the dark house on the cliff, rain hammering down, the Pacific churning below like an audience waiting for blood. Somewhere in the city, Paulo Hermano was celebrating, planning his next move, sharpening his knives. Let him. Maya had been a weapon far longer than he'd been alive. And now she had something worth fighting for beyond mere survival. She had a partner, a purpose, a reason to stop hiding and start burning everything that dared to threaten what mattered. The storm raged on. Inside the safe house, 2 monsters remembered what it meant to be human just long enough to choose violence together. Tomorrow, they would make Paulo Hermano regret every match he'd lit. Tonight, they planned his funeral. Rain turned the windows into rivers. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, Daniel's laptop open before her, eyes scanning surveillance footage and intel reports with surgical focus. She'd shed her jacket, her shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing scars that mapped a history written in violence. Daniel watched her from the kitchen, pouring whiskey he wasn't drinking, just needing something to do with his hands. "Your security protocols are garbage," she said without looking up. "Los Hermanos knew your movements 3 days in advance. That means someone in your inner circle is feeding them real-time intelligence." "I know." Daniel set down the bottle. "Min-ho's been running background on everyone with high-level access. So far, nothing. Then look deeper. Past the obvious. People don't usually betray for money. They betray because they believe they're doing the right thing. Ideology, revenge, misplaced loyalty." Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Who in your organization has family in Mexico? Connections to the Hermano cartel before it went to war with you?" Daniel moved closer, studying the screen over her shoulder. His presence was solid, grounding. "Marcus Lee. He runs my Koreatown operations. His wife is Mexican, Guadalajara family, but he's been with me for 8 years. Loyal, reliable. 8 years is plenty of time to build cover." Maya pulled up personnel files, started cross-referencing. What happened 8 years ago? Why did you hire him? Recommendation from an associate. He needed work. Had experience in logistics and distribution. Started small, worked his way up. Daniel frowned. "You think he's been planning this from the beginning?" "Maybe. Or maybe Los Hermanos got to him recently. Found leverage, threatened his family." Maya clicked through financial records there. 3 wire transfers over the past month, 20,000 each, routed through intermediary accounts, but sloppy enough that someone wanted you to find them eventually. That's pocket change for someone in Marcus's position. Exactly, which means it's not about the money. Maya sat back, processing. It's a message. Paolo's showing you that loyalty is fiction, that anyone can be bought, broken, turned. He's not just attacking your empire, he's attacking your belief system. Daniel's jaw clenched. I need to bring Marcus in. No. Maya closed the laptop, turned to face him. You bring him in. Paolo knows you're onto the leak. Better to use him. Feed false information. Set a trap. Use my own man as bait. He stopped being your man when he took their money. Maya stood, stretched, felt vertebrae crack. This is war, Daniel. Sentiment gets people killed. I know what war is. His voice was sharp, defensive. I've fought more of them than you've seen birthdays. Then stop hesitating. Maya moved closer, invaded his space deliberately. You want Paolo? You want revenge for those people he burned? Then you need to think like he does. Strike where it hurts. Show no mercy. I'm not him. No, you're worse. Maya's eyes bored into his. Because you have the capacity for mercy and you choose violence anyway, that makes you more dangerous than any thug operating on pure rage. Daniel stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Is that what you tell yourself? To justify what you've done? I don't justify anything. I just survive. Maya turned away, moved to the window. The storm had intensified, waves hammering the cliffs, wind howling like grief. You wanted to know who I am? Fine. I'm the woman who executed a diplomat in front of his children because those were my orders. I'm the soldier who burned an entire village to smoke out one target. I'm the weapon that worked so well they couldn't retire me. They had to bury me. Silence filled the space between them. And now? Daniel asked quietly. Now I'm trying to figure out if I'm still that person, or if I've been playing human so long I've forgotten how to be the monster. Maya pressed her palm against the glass, felt cold bleeding through. You make it complicated. How? Because you see me, not the mask, not the ghost. Me. She didn't turn around. And when someone sees you, really sees you, it's harder to hide, harder to pretend you're empty inside. Daniel moved behind her, close enough that his breath stirred her hair. Maybe you're not empty. Maybe you're just tired of carrying everything alone. Maya's reflection in the glass showed exhaustion she usually hid, aren't you? Yes. His hand found her shoulder. Gentle pressure. Which is why I'm grateful you're here. Even if it's dangerous, even if it costs me everything, it will cost you everything. Maya turned to face him. That's what Paolo wants. To strip you down, destroy your empire, leave you with nothing, then let him take everything else. Daniel's hand moved from her shoulder to her face, cradling her jaw. As long as I keep this moment, this choice, you Maya's breath caught. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you move through violence like poetry. I know you scan exits even in safe spaces because nowhere feels safe. I know you hide because being seen means being vulnerable, and vulnerability means death. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know what it's like to be exactly that kind of broken. She should pull away, maintain distance. Professional boundaries were the only thing keeping them both alive, but Daniel's touch was warm and his eyes held something that looked like understanding, and Maya was so desperately tired of being alone. Tell me, she whispered, about Busan, about whatever made you into this. Daniel's expression shuddered for a moment, then he stepped back, gave her space, and began, My father was a fisherman. Honest work, honest life. But Busan isn't kind to honest people. The gangs controlled the docks, protection money, smuggling routes, violence as commerce. He refused to pay, said he'd rather starve than feed the beasts. Daniel moved to the whiskey, finally poured himself a glass. So they made an example, burned his boat, beat him in front of our entire neighborhood, showed everyone what happened when you said no. Maya listened perfectly still. I was 15, watching my father bleed on the dock while men laughed, and I understood something fundamental in that moment. Daniel drank. Set the glass down with controlled precision. Power isn't given, it's taken. And the only way to protect what you love is to become more dangerous than anything that threatens it. So you join them. No, I destroyed them. Daniel's eyes were distant. Seeing a past stained in red took me 3 years. I learned their operations, their weaknesses, their hierarchy, made myself useful, indispensable, got close enough to their leadership that they trusted me with their secrets. He smiled, cold, terrible. Then I burned it all down. Every warehouse, every safe house, every connection they had left them exposed for their rivals to devour. And your father, he died 6 months after the beating. Injuries he never recovered from, never knew what I'd become to avenge him. Daniel's voice cracked slightly. Maybe that's mercy. Maybe he would have hated what I turned into. Maya crossed the room, stood beside him, or maybe he would have understood that sometimes love looks like destruction. Is that what this is? Daniel met her eyes. Destruction disguised as something better. I don't know yet. Maya took the whiskey glass from his hand, drank what remained. It burned beautifully. But I know Paulo doesn't get to decide how this story ends. We do. Thunder cracked so loud the windows rattled. Lightning illuminated them in stark white. 2 figures standing in darkness, surrounded by glass and storm. Daniel reached out slowly, giving her time to retreat, and pulled her close. Not sexual, just contact. Just the warmth of another person who understood what it meant to carry death on your skin. Maya let herself lean into him. Felt his heartbeat against her cheek, steady and strong. Felt something inside her chest crack open just enough to hurt. I'm going to get you killed, she whispered against his shirt. Then at least I'll die for something real. His arms tightened around her. Better than slowly suffocating under the weight of empire I built from corpses. They stood like that as the storm raged, holding each other, not from desire, but from desperate need for connection, for proof that they were more than the violence they carried. Maya felt his breath in her hair, his hands steady on her back, and for one impossible moment, she let herself imagine safety, home, peace. Then her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, read the message, and felt ice replace whatever warmth had been building. What? Daniel asked, sensing the shift. Minho just sent surveillance from the port. Los Hermanos is moving tonight, weapons shipment coming in, heavy security. If we hit them now, we'd be walking into a trap or an opportunity. Maya showed him the screen. Heat signatures, guard rotations, blind spots in their coverage. They're expecting you to be grieving, wounded, not strategizing with someone who can read tactical deployments in her sleep. Daniel studied the footage, and Maya watched him transform. The vulnerable man disappeared. What remained was the wolf. Calculating, predatory, ruthless. We'd need a team, equipment, extraction routes if it goes sideways. I can handle logistics. You focus on positioning. Your people trust you. We use that. Make them believe this is about mourning the losses, about striking back emotionally. Maya pulled up blueprints on her phone. But really, we're surgical, fast, gone before they even register what hit them. And Marcus, we use him exactly as planned. Feed him information about a different target tonight. Let him pass it to Paulo. While Los Hermanos is defending the wrong location, we hit them where they're actually vulnerable. Daniel smiled, dark, approving. You're terrifying when you strategize. You have no idea. Maya moved to grab her jacket. We need to move now. Gather your most trusted people. Not Marcus. Not anyone in his immediate orbit. People who've bled for you. People who will follow you into hell. That's a short list. Good. Makes it easier to keep secrets. They worked through the night. Calls made in hushed tones. Resources moved, weapons checked and rechecked. Maya coordinated like she'd been born to it, every action precise and purposeful. Daniel watched her transform from the woman who'd trembled in his arms to the operative who destabilized governments and felt something that might have been love, but looked more like inevitability. By dawn, they had a plan. Dangerous, aggressive, exactly the kind of move Paolo wouldn't expect from a supposedly broken adversary. Maya stood at the window as first light painted the ocean in shades of blood and gold. Daniel came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "After this," he said quietly. "After we burn Los Hermanos to ash? What then?" "I don't know." Maya covered his hands with hers. "I've never thought past survival. Never planned for a future that might actually exist. Then let's make one." Daniel turned her to face him. Not built on violence, not held together by shared trauma, something real. Maya looked up at him at eyes that held impossible hope, despite everything he'd seen, everything he'd done. "You're asking for a fairy tale. I'm asking for a chance." The words settled between them like a promise neither was sure they could keep. "If we survive tonight," Maya said, "ask me again. Deal." Daniel kissed her. Soft, brief, tasting of coffee in desperate optimism. They pulled apart, checked weapons, reviewed the plan one final time. Then they drove into the city as dawn broke over Los Angeles, painting everything in shades of fire. Tonight they would make Paolo Hermano remember what it meant to hunt wolves. Tonight, monsters would remind the world why humans should fear the dark. The port district smelled like rust and broken promises. Maya moved through shadows. Daniel 3 steps behind, both of them armed and silent as death. The rest of the team, 6 of Daniel's most trusted operatives, spread out across the complex, covering exits and angles of attack. The intelligence had been perfect, almost too perfect. Los Hermanos' shipment was exactly where Minho's surveillance had indicated, guarded by a skeleton crew that suggested arrogance or distraction. Maya's instincts screamed, "Trap. Hold." She whispered into her comm. The team froze. "Something's wrong. Where's the heavy security? The reinforcements?" Daniel's voice crackled in her ear. "You think they made us? I think we're not the only ones playing games tonight." Maya scanned the containers, the loading cranes, the dark spaces between massive steel boxes. "Pull back, regroup at the gunfire erupted from 3 directions at once." Maya dove behind a container as bullets sparked off metal. Her team returned fire, muzzle flashes illuminating the night, shouts in Spanish and Korean. Los Hermanos hadn't come alone. They brought an army. Ambush. Someone yelled into the comm. They were waiting. The voice cut off, body hitting concrete. Maya's combat instincts took over. She moved fluid and fast, using the container maze for cover, picking off targets with brutal efficiency. Headshot, center mass, no wasted ammunition. The weapon in her hand was just an extension of her body. Decades of training reducing violence to muscle memory. Daniel fought like a demon 10 meters away, close quarters, hand to hand when enemies got too near. Using every dirty trick that had kept him alive this long, Maya caught glimpses of him between containers, breaking bones, stealing weapons, moving with lethal grace. They'd trained separately for the same war, but Los Hermanos had numbers and they'd known exactly where Daniel's team would be. "Fall back," Daniel ordered into the comm. "Get to the extraction point. Sir, we're cut off." Another voice panicked. "They've got the north exit blocked. Explosion." The comm filled with static and screaming. Maya's blood turned cold. This wasn't an ambush. This was extermination. Paolo had known they were coming, had prepared to wipe out Daniel's entire inner circle in one night, which meant the leak was worse than they'd thought. "Daniel." Maya shouted over the gunfire. "Marcus didn't betray you. Minho did." Silence on the comm. Then Daniel's voice low and deadly. "Explain." The intel was too good, the timing too perfect. Minho's the only one who knew our exact plan tonight, who knew where we'd be and when. Maya dropped another enemy, reloaded without looking. "He's been playing you from the beginning, probably from before Los Hermanos even started this war. More gunfire, closer now." They were being herded toward the water, toward a kill zone with no cover and nowhere to run. "Where are you?" Daniel demanded. "Container row 7, U5 pinned down, 3 hostiles between us." Maya assessed the layout, calculated angles and probabilities. "I'm coming to you. 60 seconds. Cover your 6. Maya, don't." but she was already moving fast, low. Using darkness and chaos for camouflage, she killed 2 men without slowing, wounded a third, reached Daniel's position as he put down the last hostile pressing him. Their eyes met across the darkness. No words needed. They moved together, backs to each other. A 2-person killing machine that cut through Los Hermanos' forces like a blade through silk. But there were too many. And the team, Daniel's loyal people, were dying. Maya could hear it over the comm. Screams cut short, final gasps, the wet sounds of bodies hitting concrete. "We need to get out," Maya said, dropping an enemy who'd rounded the container too fast. "Regroup. Live to fight another day. I'm not leaving my people. Your people are already dead." Maya grabbed his arm, forced him to meet her eyes. "This is a slaughter. If we stay, we die too. And then Paulo wins everything." Daniel's face twisted with rage and grief, but he was pragmatic enough to recognize truth when it tried to save his life. "Extraction point, Beta," he said into the comm. "Anyone still alive? Get there now." Silence answered, then static, then nothing. They ran through the container maze, Los Hermanos' forces converging behind them. Maya threw a flash grenade, bought them seconds. Daniel returned, suppressing fire, keeping pursuers at distance. They moved with synchronized precision, covering each other, anticipating movements, fighting like they'd been doing this together for years instead of days. The extraction point was a dock jutting into black water. A speedboat waited. Insurance Maya had insisted on a backup plan nobody else knew about. They were 20 meters away when Maya felt the impact. Not pain at first, just force. Her leg buckled. She went down hard, weapon skittering across concrete. "Maya." Daniel's voice raw with something that sounded like fear. She looked down, blood spreading across her thigh. Dark and fast, arterial hit. Maybe femoral, bad, potentially fatal if not treated immediately. "Go!" she gasped. "Get to the boat. Screw that." Daniel was already there, scooping her up with terrifying strength, running toward the dock while bullets sparked around them. Maya tried to protest, but the pain was catching up now, white-hot and all-consuming. She pressed her hand against the wound, felt blood pulse between her fingers. Too much blood, too fast. Daniel reached the boat, laid her down with surprising gentleness given the circumstances. His hands found her thigh, pressed hard against the wound. Maya screamed. I know," he muttered, ripping his shirt to make a tourniquet. "Stay with me, Maya. Stay awake. Kind of hard when I'm bleeding out." She managed through gritted teeth, then bleed slower. Daniel tied off the tourniquet with brutal efficiency, cinching it tight enough to make her vision white out. "We're getting you to a hospital. No hospitals. They'll find us." Maya grabbed his wrist. "Your penthouse. You have medical supplies there?" "Some. Not enough for this. Then it'll have to be enough." She tried to sit up, failed, collapsed back. "Daniel, listen. Minho, I know." His voice was granite. "I'll deal with him, after I make sure you don't die on me." "Always so romantic," Maya whispered, then passed out. She woke to pain and motion. Daniel, driving like the devil himself, was chasing them, weaving through empty pre-dawn streets. Maya's leg was on fire. Everything was on fire. "Still alive?" Daniel asked without taking his eyes off the road. Debatable. Maya looked down at her thigh. The tourniquet had slowed the bleeding, but blood still seeped through the makeshift bandage. "How bad you'll live. Assuming we get you somewhere I can actually treat this in the next 10 minutes. Your bedside manner needs work." "Despite everything," Daniel laughed. Short, sharp, slightly unhinged. "You got shot protecting me again. That's becoming a dangerous pattern. Someone has to keep you alive." Maya closed her eyes against a wave of nausea. "How many did we lose?" The silence stretched too long. "Daniel, all of them." His voice was hollow. 6 good people dead because I walked them into a trap? Because Minho betrayed you? I trusted him. 10 years, Maya. A decade of loyalty. Or what I thought was loyalty. And he sold me out for what? Money, Paulo's promises. Maya forced herself to focus through the pain. Doesn't matter why. What matters is he's still out there, still feeding intel to Los Hermanos, Still dangerous. Not for long. Daniel's hands tightened on the wheel. When I'm done with him, Paolo will find pieces scattered across the city. They reached the penthouse. Daniel carried her inside, ignoring her protests that she could walk. He laid her on the dining table, imported marble, obscenely expensive, now about to be covered in blood. "This is going to hurt," he warned, pulling out a medical kit that looked military grade. "Everything hurts. Just do it." Daniel cut away her pants, exposing the wound. Entry point high on her outer thigh. No exit wound. Bullet still inside. His jaw clenched. "I need to extract it. You need a hospital for this." "No hospitals." Maya's voice was firm despite the shaking. "You've done this before. I can see it in how you're assessing the damage. That was a lifetime ago. Different context. Same principles. Sterilize, extract, suture. I'll walk you through it if you—" Her words cut off in a scream as Daniel poured antiseptic over the wound. "Sorry," he said, not sounding sorry. "There's no gentle way to do this." He worked with grim efficiency, local anesthetic that barely touched the pain, surgical tools that looked too clean to have ever been used, hands that were steady despite the rage Maya could see building behind his eyes. The extraction took 20 minutes that felt like hours. Maya bit down on a leather belt, tears streaming, while Daniel dug through muscle and tissue to find the bullet when he finally pulled it free, deformed copper and lead. She nearly passed out again. "Done," Daniel said quietly. "Now the stitches." Maya watched the ceiling, felt every pierce of the needle through her skin, and tried not to think about how many of Daniel's people had died tonight, how many families would wake to news that their loved ones weren't coming home, how many deaths carried her fingerprints because she'd believed they could outmaneuver Paolo Hermano. "This is my fault," she whispered. "No." Daniel's voice was firm. "This is Minho's fault and Paolo's and mine for not seeing the betrayal sooner." He tied off the final suture, but mostly it's a reminder that we're fighting people who don't care about rules or honor, who'll burn everything we love just to watch us suffer. Maya sat up slowly, testing the leg. Pain screamed, but the bleeding had stopped. "Where is he, Minho?" "I don't know." He went dark after the ambush. Daniel cleaned the blood off his hands, methodical and cold. "But I'll find him, and when I do—" His phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message, and his face went absolutely blank. "What?" Maya asked. "It's from Minho." Daniel turned the screen toward her. "You should have stayed in Busan. The wolf belongs in a cage. Check your penthouse security footage from 2 hours ago." Maya's stomach dropped. Daniel pulled up the feed, scrubbed backward, and they watched in silent horror. Minho entering the penthouse with a key card. He shouldn't have moving through rooms with familiar ease, planting devices small, professional, barely visible, cameras, listening equipment, worse. "He's been watching us," Daniel breathed. "Everything, every conversation, every—" He didn't finish, didn't need to. The implications were clear and devastating. "How long?" Maya asked. "Since the beginning. Maybe longer." Daniel's hands shook with rage. "He knew about you, about us, fed it all to Paolo, made us think we were hunting them when really they were studying us." Maya slid off the table, tested weight on her injured leg. It held barely. "Then he knows we're here, knows we survived?" "Yes. Which means Los Hermanos is coming. Probably already on their way." Daniel moved to the window, looked out at the city beginning to wake. "Let them come. I'm done running, done hiding, done playing their game by their rules. Daniel, no." He turned to face her. "They killed my people, shot you, violated my home, made me doubt everything I've built." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I'm going to burn Paolo Hermano alive. I'm going to make Minho watch. And then I'm going to show this entire city what happens when you hunt wolves." Maya saw it in his eyes. The death of restraint, the birth of something darker, more primal. The businessman evaporating, leaving only the monster underneath. "If you go down that road," she said quietly, "there's no coming back. I know. You'll lose yourself. Maybe." Daniel crossed to her, cupped her face with hands still stained with her blood. "But I'll have vengeance, and I'll have kept you alive. That's enough." Maya searched his face, saw the man she'd been falling for disappearing beneath rage and grief. She should stop him, should pull him back from the edge. Instead, she kissed him hard, desperate, tasting like blood and resignation. "Then we do it together," she said against his lips. "We burn everything, leave nothing standing, make them regret every breath they've taken since this started." Daniel's arms tightened around her. "You should run. Disappear. Let me handle this. I'm done running." Maya pulled back, met his eyes. "You said we were partners. Equal risk. That means I stand with you until the end. Whatever that looks like. Even if the end is fire. Especially if the end is fire." She smiled. "Cold and terrible and absolutely certain. I've been burned before. This time I'm controlling the flame." Dawn broke over Los Angeles. Somewhere in the city, Minho was laughing. Paulo Hermano was planning, and two people who tried very hard to be human remembered why monsters survived when heroes didn't. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Another message from Minho. "Rooftop, midnight. Come alone or she dies screaming." Below it, a photo. Maya's old apartment, the one that had exploded, and standing in front of the rubble, a young woman, early 20s, beautiful, terrified. Maya's blood turned to ice. "Who is that?" "I don't know." "Liar?" Maya grabbed his phone, zoomed in on the photo. The woman's face was familiar in ways that made her chest ache. "Daniel, who is she?" His expression cracked. "My sister, half-sister, from my father's second marriage. I sent her to America for school, kept her away from this life. Minho is one of the only people who knew about her." His voice broke. "I thought I was protecting her. I thought if I kept her secret, he's going to kill her." Maya handed back the phone. "Unless you give him what he wants, which is what? My life. My empire, you." Maya's mind raced, calculating options and probabilities. "He wants you broken, wants you to choose between vengeance and family, to force you into sacrificing everything for someone you love. Then he's already won." Daniel sank into a chair, suddenly looking decades older. "Because I can't let her die. She's innocent. She's—" He pressed his hands against his face. "She's the only family I have left." Maya limped to him, placed her hand on his shoulder. "Then we don't go alone. We don't play his game. We make our own rules. Come alone." He said a lot of things. Most of them were lies. Maya's voice hardened. "You want to save your sister? Fine, but we do it smart, tactical, using everything I know about hostage extraction and everything you know about Minho's psychology." Daniel looked up at her. "What are you suggesting? That we stop reacting and start acting? That we give Paulo and Minho exactly what they want?" Maya smiled, sharp and dangerous, "until the moment we give them what they deserve instead." Outside, the city woke to another beautiful day. Inside, two people planned murder dressed as rescue. Midnight was 12 hours away. Maya intended to spend every second making sure Minho regretted learning her name. Maya spent the day transforming Daniel's penthouse into a war room, weapons laid out with surgical precision, maps marked with approach vectors, every contingency planned for every variable accounted for. Her wounded leg screamed with each movement, but she ignored it. Pain was just information. Death was the only thing that mattered. Daniel made calls, quiet coded conversations with people Maya didn't ask about, resources being moved, favors being called in, the infrastructure of empire being repurposed for a single, desperate extraction. They didn't talk about what would happen if they failed. Some futures were too dark to speak into existence. By evening, Maya had modified her tactical vest to accommodate the leg wound, armed herself with enough firepower to start a small war, and run through the plan 17 times in her head. Daniel found her on the balcony watching the sun sink into the Pacific like a drowning god. "You should eat something," he said, standing beside her. "Can't need to stay light mobile." "Food slows reflexes, Maya. I know what I'm doing." She didn't look at him. I've run operations like this in 12 countries, extracted assets from worse situations. Minho thinks he's smart, but he's emotional. That makes him predictable. And if you're wrong, finally, Maya turned to face him. Then your sister dies. We probably die. And Paulo Hermano wins everything. Daniel's jaw tightened. Inspiring. I don't do inspiration. I do probability and violence. Maya softened slightly. But if you're asking if I think we can pull this off? Yes, barely. With luck we don't deserve in timing, that would make Clockwork jealous. That's not particularly reassuring. Good. Confidence gets people killed. She reached out, traced the line of his jaw. Healthy fear keeps you sharp. Daniel caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. I meant what I said earlier about making something real. Daniel, I know, terrible timing, but if tonight goes sideways, I need you to know. He took a breath. You're the first person in 20 years who's made me want something beyond revenge and survival. Who's made me remember what it feels like to be human instead of just wearing the costume. Maya's throat tightened. You're romanticizing trauma bonding. No, I'm telling you the truth before we walk into hell. His hand moved to her face, holding her gaze. I see you, Maya Reeves. Whoever you really are beneath all the names and identities. I see the woman who fights like war is worship and hides because being seen means death. I see someone as broken as I am, trying just as hard to put the pieces back together. Broken things don't heal. They just learn to live with the cracks. Then let's be broken together. Daniel's forehead touched hers. Let's survive tonight and build something from the wreckage, something that doesn't require blood to sustain it. Maya closed her eyes, felt his breath on her skin, and let herself imagine it. A life beyond violence. Mornings that didn't start with threat assessment. Nights that ended in peace instead of nightmares. It was the most dangerous fantasy she'd ever entertained. If we survive, she whispered, ask me again. I will every day until you believe it. They stood like that as darkness swallowed the city. Two people about to gamble everything on a plan that relied more on desperation than strategy. Maya's phone alarm chimed. 11 p.m. 1 hour until midnight. Time to move, she said, pulling away. They geared up in silence. Checking weapons, securing equipment, performing the rituals of people who'd done this too many times before. Maya strapped a knife to her uninjured thigh, another to her ankle. Daniel loaded magazines with methodical precision, each click of ammunition a promise of violence. At 11:30, they left the penthouse, took the service elevator down to the garage. Daniel's motorcycle waited, fast, agile, perfect for the kind of extraction that required speed over armor. Maya climbed on behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, felt his heartbeat through his jacket, steady, determined. Last chance to walk away, Daniel said, and miss all the fun. Maya's voice was light, but her grip tightened. Drive. They shot into Los Angeles night, weaving through traffic with controlled aggression. The rendezvous point was across town. A half-finished building, construction halted by litigation, now just a skeleton of concrete and ambition reaching toward uncaring stars. Perfect for an ambush. They arrived at 11:50. Daniel killed the engine 2 blocks away. They approached on foot, using darkness and parked cars for cover. Maya's leg protested every step, but adrenaline was better than any painkiller. The building loomed above them. 30 floors of exposed rebar and empty windows. Maya scanned the structure, mapping positions and sightlines. Rooftop, she murmured. He'll have her there. Maximum exposure, hard to approach without being seen. He wants me vulnerable, emotional, so we give him that. Maya met Daniel's eyes. You go up alone, visible, hands empty. Exactly what he demanded. And you? I go up the hard way. Climb the exterior, come in from behind while he's focused on you. Maya pulled out a compact grappling system borrowed from contacts she didn't explain. When I signal, you drop. I handle the rest. That's not a plan. That's barely a prayer. Welcome to tactical operations. Maya checked her weapons one final time. Trust me. Daniel looked at her, really looked like he was memorizing every detail in case it was the last time. With my life, with everything. Then let's go save your sister and kill a traitor. They split up. Daniel entered through the main construction entrance, hands raised, playing the defeated billionaire. Maya circled the building, found a structural column, and began to climb. The ascent was brutal. Every pull aggravated her wounded leg. Cold wind bit through tactical gear, but Maya had climbed worse surfaces and worse conditions. Pain was just noise. The mission was everything. She reached the 20th floor, pulled herself onto an exposed beam, caught her breath. 15 seconds, then kept climbing below. She could hear Daniel's voice echoing through the skeletal structure. Talking to someone, Minho probably words she couldn't make out, but tones she recognized. Negotiation masquerading as surrender. 25th floor, her arm screamed. Blood seeped through the bandage on her thigh. Maya ignored both, focused on the next handhold, the next pull, 30th floor, the roof. Maya hauled herself over the edge, rolled into shadow, drew her weapon. The scene before her was exactly what she'd expected, and somehow worse. Minho stood at the roof's edge, Daniel's sister kneeling before him, hands bound, mouth gagged. 2 other men, Los Hermanos soldiers, flanked him, weapons trained on Daniel as he stood 20 feet away, hands still raised, face carefully blank. I came alone, Daniel was saying, like you demanded. Now let her go. Minho laughed, bitter, triumphant. You think I'm stupid? That I'd believe the great Daniel Kang would actually surrender. I'm here, aren't I? You're here, but where's your little operative, the ghost who can't stop saving you? Minho's eyes scanned the shadows. Maya Reeves, or whoever she really is. Maya stayed perfectly still, waiting, assessing angles. She's gone, Daniel said. Left the city after the port. Said this wasn't her fight. Liar. Minho pressed his gun against the girl's head. She whimpered behind the gag. You've been broadcasting from your penthouse all day. Planning, preparing. I heard everything. Damn it! Maya's mind raced. He'd left the listening devices active, wanted them to know he was listening. The trap wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Then you know I'm done, Daniel said quietly. You've won. You and Paulo. My empire is ash. My people are dead. All I want is my sister. Let her go and I'll give you whatever you want. What I want. Minho's voice cracked with emotion. Is for you to understand what it's like to lose everything. To have the thing you love most destroyed while you watch helplessly. Why? Daniel's mask cracked. 10 years, Minho. A decade of loyalty. What did I do to deserve this? You killed my brother. Minho's gun hand trembled. 5 years ago. The Busan consolidation. You had rivals eliminated, loose ends tied up. My brother was one of those ends. 23 years old. Just graduated university. Worked as an accountant for one of your competitors. Innocent. Daniel's face went pale. I didn't know. You didn't care. Minho's composure shattered. He was collateral damage. A name on a list. You signed the order without even reading it. And I've spent 5 years getting close to you, earning your trust, waiting for the perfect moment to take everything you love. Maya's finger tightened on the trigger. Clean shot, 40 feet, strong crosswind, 90% probability of kill. But the moment she fired, the Los Hermanos soldiers would open up on Daniel, maybe hit the girl. Unacceptable risk. She needed a better angle, needed them distracted. Daniel must have reached the same conclusion because he took a step forward, drawing focus. Minho, listen to me. I'm sorry if I'd known. Sorry doesn't resurrect the dead. Minho's voice echoed across the rooftop. Sorry doesn't give me back my brother. Doesn't erase the moment I had to tell my mother her son was gone, that he died for your ambition. You're right. Daniel's voice broke with genuine emotion. You're absolutely right. I've taken so much, destroyed so much. All in the name of building an empire I told myself mattered, but it doesn't. None of it does compared to he looked at his sister. To family, to the people we love. Maya used the moment, moved 3 steps closer. Better angle now. 70% kill shot on Minho, but still too risky with the girl so close. I can't give you your brother back, Daniel continued, but I can give you my life. Let her go. Take me instead. End this however you need to. Daniel, no. His sister's muffled protest, touching. Minho's gun pressed harder against her temple, but insufficient. I don't just want you dead, I want you destroyed. I want you to live knowing you couldn't save her. That your empire, your power, your precious control, all of it was worthless when it mattered most. His finger moved to the trigger. Maya didn't think, just moved. She burst from shadow, crossing the distance in 4 seconds, weapon up, shouting down. Daniel dropped instantly. Maya fired twice, both Los Hermanos soldiers down before they could react. But Minho was faster than she expected, weapon swinging toward her even as he used the girl as a shield. Maya adjusted mid-motion, couldn't take the shot without risking the hostage, so she did the only thing possible. She threw herself into Minho, full body tackle, knocking them both toward the roof's edge. They went over together. Maya felt weightlessness, saw Daniel's face, horror and understanding, felt Minho's hand tangled in her tactical vest, dragging her down with him. Then her grappling line snapped taut. She'd hooked it on a scent, insurance she'd hoped not to need. It caught her 10 feet below the roof's edge, arresting the fall with brutal force that drove air from her lungs. Minho wasn't so lucky. His scream cut off abruptly as he hit the ground 30 floors below. Maya hung in darkness, spinning slowly, lungs burning, wounded legs screaming. She heard Daniel above shouting her name, then hands grabbing her vest, hauling her back onto the roof. She collapsed on concrete, gasping, everything hurting. You insane! Brilliant! Daniel pulled her close, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Maya, talk to me. I'm fine, she managed. Your sister safe. Unconscious, but safe. Minho must have drugged her. Daniel's hands shook as they moved over her body, confirming she was intact. You could have died. That was the stupidest, most reckless. It worked, didn't it? Despite everything, Daniel laughed. Half sob, half relief. Yeah, it worked. Maya sat up slowly, testing limbs, everything functional. The leg wound had reopened. She could feel blood spreading, but nothing fatal. Just another scar to add to the collection. We need to move, she said. Minho might have called for backup before. Already handled, Daniel helped her stand. I had people staging nearby just in case. They're sweeping the building now. Of course he did. Maya smiled despite the pain. You didn't trust me? I trusted you completely. But I'm not an idiot. Daniel looked at her, really looked, and Maya saw something in his expression that made her chest ache. You were going to sacrifice yourself. If it came down to choosing between me and my sister, you were ready to die so we both lived. That's the job. No. His hand found her face. That's love disguised as duty, and I'm done pretending I don't see the difference. Maya wanted to argue to explain that it was just strategy, just tactical priority. But the words wouldn't come because maybe he was right. Maybe somewhere between the violence and survival, she'd started caring about more than just the mission. Daniel. He kissed her right there on the rooftop, surrounded by unconscious enemies and the distant sound of sirens. Kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. Maya kissed him back, tasted blood and desperation and impossible hope. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Daniel pressed his forehead to hers. After this, he whispered, after we deal with Paulo, after we burn everything that needs burning, I know. Maya's voice was soft. Me too, his sister groaned, consciousness returning. Daniel moved to her side, checking her vitals, untying her bonds. She blinked up at him with eyes that were his, but younger, more innocent. Appa, she whispered in Korean. I'm here. You're safe. The man, he said. Her voice cracked. He said you killed people, that you were a monster. Daniel's expression shuddered. Maya saw him calculating what to say, how much truth to reveal. He was right, Daniel said finally. I have killed people. I've done terrible things, built an empire from violence and fear. I am. He took a breath. I am exactly the monster he said I was. His sister stared at him, processing. But I'm also your brother, and I will burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you again. He helped her stand. Can you live with that? With knowing what I am? She looked at him for a long moment, then at Maya, standing bloodied and armed in the shadows. Then back at Daniel. You came for me, she said quietly. When you could have walked away, could have let me die to protect yourself. You came always. She hugged him then, fierce and desperate. Daniel held her, and Maya saw his face crack with emotion he'd been holding back. Family, the thing that made monsters human, the thing worth dying for. Maya turned away, giving them privacy, and looked out at Los Angeles, spreading below like a map of possibilities. The city glittered, indifferent to violence and rescue. Just another night in a place where people fought and bled and hoped for dawn. Her phone buzzed. Message from an unknown number. Minho was just the opening move. Your turn, Reeves. Paulo Hermano. Maya smiled cold and certain. Good. She whispered to the city. I was hoping you'd make this personal. Behind her, Daniel finished with his sister, called his backup team to extract her somewhere safe. Then he stood beside Maya, looking at the same city, seeing the same war. It's not over, is it? He asked. No, this was just the betrayal. Now comes the real fight. Maya met his eyes. Paulo knows we survived, knows we're coming. He'll fortify, prepare, make the final confrontation as brutal as possible. Good. Daniel's voice was granite. I want him ready. Want him to understand exactly who's hunting him, what kind of monsters live in the shadows he thought he controlled. They stood together as night deepened. Two people who'd tried very hard to be civilized, remembering why civilization was just a thin veneer over sharpened teeth. Tomorrow they would finish this, would burn Paulo Hermano and Los Hermanos cartel to ash. Tonight they allowed themselves one moment of peace, standing on a rooftop above a city that ate people alive, holding each other like anchors against the storm. You think power makes you safe? Maya had said once. Daniel had learned the truth. Power didn't make you safe. It just made the target on your back bigger, brighter, impossible to miss. But maybe with the right person beside you, it made you dangerous enough that the monsters hunting you thought twice before attacking. Maybe that was enough. The storm was coming, but for one perfect moment, they pretended they couldn't hear the thunder. The warehouse district smelled like gasoline and broken promises. Maya stood in shadow across from Los Hermanos' headquarters, a converted textile factory that now served as Paulo's throne room. 3 weeks since the rooftop. 3 weeks of planning, gathering intelligence, watching Paulo fortify his position like a king preparing for siege. Tonight, the siege began. Thermal shows 43 bodies inside, Maya murmured into her comm. Heavy concentration on the second floor. That's where he'll be. Daniel's voice crackled in her ear. Entry points 4 confirmed. Loading dock south side. 2 guards rotating patrol. Roof access, northwest corner. Unsecured but exposed. Front entrance. Suicide. And the old underground steam tunnels from when this was industrial district. The tunnels. The tunnels, Maya confirmed. She turned to look at Daniel standing 10 feet away, dressed in black tactical gear that made him look more soldier than billionaire. You're sure about this? Once we go in, there's no walking it back. This becomes war. Total final. It's been war since he burned my restaurant. Daniel checked his weapon. Practiced, efficient. I'm just finished pretending otherwise. Maya nodded. Around them, Daniel's remaining forces staged in darkness. 20 people, professionals, ex-military, ex-police, the kind of individuals who understood violence as currency. Not enough to match Los Hermanos' numbers, but enough if they were smart, brutal, and willing to die for the cause. Everyone clear on objectives? Maya asked into the comm. A chorus of affirmatives. Good. We move in 3 minutes. Remember, this isn't about killing everyone. It's about reaching Paulo. Everything else is obstacle removal. She cut the connection, turned to Daniel. Last chance. We can still call this off. Disappear. Let Paulo think he won and live looking over our shoulders forever. Daniel's jaw said, "No, this ends tonight one way or another?" "That's what I'm afraid of." Maya touched his arm. "If something goes wrong, if I go down, you get out. Don't play hero. Don't martyr yourself. Just survive." "Funny." Daniel's hand covered hers. "I was about to say the same thing to you." They looked at each other, and Maya saw everything they'd never said out loud reflected in his eyes. Affection, understanding, the kind of connection that came from shared trauma and synchronized violence. "If we survive this," Daniel started. When we survive this," Maya managed to smile. Positive thinking. "When we survive this," Daniel amended. "I'm taking you somewhere quiet, somewhere without fire or bullets or people trying to kill us. And I'm asking you properly. About after, about us, about building something that doesn't require blood. That's a hell of a first date. We're a hell of a couple." Maya laughed despite everything. "Yeah, we are." The timer on her watch hit 0. "Time," she said quietly. "Let's go burn down an empire." They moved as one unit, flowing through darkness toward the steam tunnel entrance. Maya led. She knew these systems, had studied them obsessively. The tunnels were tight, claustrophobic, lined with pipes that dripped condensation like sweat. Perfect infiltration route, perfect death trap if Los Hermanos discovered them. They moved in silence, single file, weapons up. Maya's wounded leg protested every step, but she'd wrapped it tight, loaded up on painkillers she'd regret later. Later didn't matter, only forward motion mattered. The tunnel opened into the warehouse basement. Maya raised a fist. Halt. Listened. Voices above, footsteps, guard rotation. She checked her watch. 30 seconds until they moved past this section. 30 seconds of exposure. They waited. Time stretched like taffy. Maya counted heartbeats, matched breathing to the rhythm of patrol boots overhead. The footsteps faded. "Move," Maya whispered. They climbed stairs, entered the main warehouse floor. Containers stacked like metal coffins, shadows thick enough to hide armies. Maya scanned the space, mapping threats and routes. Daniel moved beside her, rifle up, covering angles she couldn't see. This was what they'd become. 2 halves of one lethal whole. Gunfire erupted from the south side, the distraction team hitting the loading dock exactly on schedule. Los Hermanos' forces converged on the noise, shouting orders in Spanish and Korean. Weapons raised. Go. Maya ordered into the comm. The team split, half following her toward the north stairwell, while the rest maintained pressure at the perimeter. They ascended through chaos. Each floor brought new resistance, guards scrambling to defensive positions, confused by the coordinated assault. Maya dropped targets with mechanical precision. Daniel moved like the predator he'd always been. Efficient and brutal. Second floor. Paulo's office door stood open. Light spilling into the corridor like an invitation. Too easy. Maya signaled halt. Scanned for tripwires, pressure plates, anything that screamed trap. Found nothing, which meant everything. "He's not here," she said into Daniel's ear. "Where then?" Maya closed her eyes. Thought like someone cornered and desperate. "The roof. He's on the roof." Once the high ground for the final stand, they reversed course, climbing higher. The building shook with explosions below. Their team working through Los Hermanos' defenses, bodies littered stairwells. The air tasted like copper and cordite. Top-floor roof access. And standing there, backlit by city lights, was Paulo Hermano. "Alone, Daniel Kang," Paulo said, spreading his arms. "I was wondering when you'd stop sending others to die for you." "Funny," Daniel replied. "Rifle-trained center mass. I could say the same." These Paulo gestured at the warehouse below. They chose loyalty to a cause bigger than themselves. His eyes found Maya. Unlike some people who fight for nothing but survival, Maya said nothing. Let him talk. Talking men made mistakes. "You killed my father," Paulo continued. "Took everything he built. Now I take everything you love." "You already tried that," Daniel said. "Failed spectacularly." Paulo's expression darkened. He nodded once and the roof erupted with hidden shooters emerging from behind HVAC units and ventilation structures. Maya moved on instinct, tackling Daniel behind a concrete barrier as bullets chewed the air where they'd stood. Returned fire from below, their team had followed, was engaging Paolo's forces. But Paolo was moving, using the chaos to reach the roof's edge, where a helicopter materialized from the darkness, spotlight blinding. No. Daniel surged forward. Maya grabbed him. Let him go. It's over. It's not. Look, she pointed at the helicopter, at the figures inside. Federal agents, DEA, the alphabet soup of law enforcement that had been building a case. I made a call 3 weeks ago. Gave them everything. Financial records, trafficking routes, evidence of Min Ho's murder. They've been waiting for tonight to move. Daniel stared as Paolo realized his escape route was arrest, watched the cartel boss's face transform from triumph to fury to resignation. The helicopter landed. Agents emerged. Paolo Hermano went down in handcuffs, screaming threats that meant nothing anymore. Silence fell. Smoke drifted. Bodies cooled. Daniel turned to Maya. You planned this. All of it. I planned for survival, for ending the war without becoming what we fought against. She met his gaze. You can't build something new on a foundation of more corpses. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. You saved me again. We saved each other. They walked down through the burning warehouse, past the surrendering Los Hermanos soldiers into a dawn that painted everything gold and red. Emergency vehicles converged. Media would come soon, turning violence into narrative. But for now, they had each other and the knowledge that they'd survived. 10 miles outside the city, Maya's phone buzzed. She checked it, expression tightening. What? Daniel asked. Message from my old handler, the one who buried me when I disappeared. She showed him the screen. 3 words. Contract reinstated. Run. Daniel's hands tightened on the wheel. What does that mean? Means someone knows I'm alive. Means they want me operational again. Means. Maya closed her eyes. Means they'll hunt me until I comply or die trying to stay free. Then we run together. Daniel, no. His voice was absolute. You stood with me through war. I stand with you through whatever comes next. That's what partnership means. Maya looked at him, searching for doubt and finding only certainty. It never ends. You understand that? Even if we run, even if we hide, something always comes. Some threat, some enemy, some past, refusing to stay buried. Then we'll face it together. Daniel's hand found hers. I'm done fighting alone. Done believing I have to carry everything myself. If we're going to burn, we burn together. She squeezed his hand, nodded, made her choice. They drove into morning light, leaving Los Angeles behind. 2 people who tried very hard to be civilized, finally accepting what they were. Monsters learning to love each other's teeth. The city shrunk in the rearview mirror. Somewhere behind them, police processed crime scenes and prosecutors built cases and journalists wrote stories about violence that would be forgotten by next week's news cycle. But Daniel and Maya drove toward something that might be freedom or might be another kind of cage. Either way, they were choosing it together. That had to count for something. In a city built on lies, she'd been the only truth that drew blood, and he'd been the only person brave enough to bleed beside her. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. The highway stretched before them like a promise written in asphalt and morning light, and for the first time, and longer than either could remember, they weren't running from something. They were running toward it. Thank you for staying until the end. That means more than you think. If this story touched something inside you, subscribe, like, and tell me what you felt in the comments. I read every single one, because this isn't just storytelling, it's connection. And if you're ready for the next journey, don't wander too far. The next story is already waiting in the dark.